iScrappers, Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, December 12th, 2018, and I'm very excited to be back actually doing the live version of our Wednesday afternoon weekly report. We hope that everyone's been doing well, had a nice Thanksgiving, enjoying the first couple of weeks of December. Any questions you have while we're doing this live report, please feel free to ask us. If we don't get to your questions because you're watching it after the fact, please feel free to ask us those questions and we'll get you those answers as soon as we can. So we've had lots of reports the last few weeks. I know that we've had a couple of pre-recorded videos. I promise it's nothing against everyone that's watching us. There's just so many things that go on towards the end of the year that you have to be able to move around. And last week I expected to be here and then I got called out, and you know, we're moving all over the place, but we're here right now, so we want to talk about some of the markets, where they're going and where they seem to be going in the next couple of weeks. Now, we talked about a few weeks ago the big date that was going on between China and the U.S. down at the G20 summit in Argentina. That happened, and a couple of positive things came out of it, but then they quickly turned negative after the markets opened and started to react. They said that there would be a 90-day hold on some of the tariffs. Some people didn't know if the 90 days were starting on January 1st or if it was 90 days from December 1st. So it turns out that there was a 90-day hold that's going to happen from December 1st, stretching until March 1st. And that's going to be the 90-day window that we're going to try to get a deal done between the U.S. and the Chinese markets to try to get these tariffs put into place, to try to end what this little trade war is, as little as an understatement, and to see how we can start to reshape some of the negotiations and the partnering between the two countries. You know, you're talking about two of the world's largest superpowers, so it's not as easy and it's not cut and dry. There's a lot of moving parts, and there's a lot of different talks in trade that you have to be aware of, that you have to look out for. And with all these different moving parts, that's one of the reasons that we've had such delay and such chaos, let's go with, over the last 6 or 7 months since a lot of the tariffs have been instituted. So, going forward, where do we see these markets? For the rest of December, I don't see anything crazy going on. Copper has reacted relatively calmly. We did see a brief 5-cent jump last Monday, the first day of December, but we saw that erode down, and we saw the markets drop 8 cents off of that 5-cent high, so we saw a 13-cent swing. Now, they've come back slightly in the last few days, but they are where they've been over the last month, in the same 10 to 15-cent range that they've been overall, and that's what we expect for the rest of this year. With the markets kind of being where they are for the rest of 2018, at least that gives you a little bit of an idea if you've been holding on to a Christmas load, starting to save material over the last 3 or 4 months, like many of you have told us that you have. But know that there's a lot of factors that are going on that are going to affect the scrap prices that you may not even think about. Now, I've talked to half a dozen scrap yards in the last few months who are holding on to a tremendous amount of copper, more than I'd really like to share on this video. The amount of copper that they're holding could put small swings into the market, and when those swings happen, you would generally see the markets decreasing. When people are holding large amounts of material and the copper market could, rise up, they'll book out a bunch of loads. Local mills throughout the country will fill up. Export markets will also fill up with orders that will come in from those price increases, and that will cause the market to have a downturn. Now, of course, this isn't every large scrap yard. These are just some of the ones that have enough security and financial stability to be able to hold on to material. So while some people think that holding on to loads is a smart thing, we really are at the mercy of the markets. How the markets react, how the markets change, and what they're going to do is going to really impact where they are. But a lot of these trade problems are going to be the root of all of the solutions if and when we are able to figure it out. Take steel, for example. Steel has eroded over the last month, with prices dropping $30 to $40 per ton. With the markets down the way that they've been, we've started to see a lot of material from overseas start to flood the market. We've heard news that the Chinese markets have started to flood some of their pig and iron ore that they've been saving, and some companies are even selling the material at break-even value, almost in spite of the tariffs that are going on. Now, of course, a lot of people are going to react and say that that's bull and that they're going to be upset with things like that, but it is what it is. And we can't control what we can't control. We can only react to what's given to us. Now, while cold-rolled steel, the new products that go out and get made into cars, stampings, products, and all other types of things have remained near multi-year highs due to the tariffs, we've seen the scrap value continue to get hammered and beaten up in 2018, acting like a roller coaster going up and down what feels like every other day. Now, we saw a very nice increase in September and October. We saw it flatten out at the beginning of November, and then it started to decrease as the middle of November hit. Now, we've seen multiple decreases in the last few weeks, and because of that, we don't expect the steel market to have any large change going forward. Have a couple of questions, V?
We do.
Sure.
Well, just statements. We have a couple shout-outs.
Love it. Shout it.
Doug from Syracuse, New York is tuning in. He says shout out.
Doug, I hope the Oranges are doing good up there. I know that's what you guys are really known for.
And then Richard said scrap is low, which is kind of what you're talking about now.
That's true, Richard.
And Buck said his yard's prices haven't changed since November 7th, and that's in Jacksonville, Florida.
Wow, that means that they are riding the highs and bearing the lows. Some scrap yards don't like changing prices. My yard here in New Jersey, we try to change our prices as infrequently as possible, but we do update those prices every day. We are generally working on a little tighter margins than other areas of the country are, so we have to change as the markets have larger swings. But we've seen a lot of prices that have been reported over the last few weeks being relatively unchanged at some of the more remote parts of the country, and that's partially because a lot of these scrap yards have a harder time moving material. They leave their profit margins a little higher, and when they go up and they go down, they either make more or make a little less. This way they don't have to waste some chalk changing the chalkboard prices a little bit. Everyone does something different, and there's multiple right ways of doing it. How your scrap yard do it is up to them.
And then we also had a question from Bob.
Bob?
He said, can you add a price point on number 2 copper wire on the iScrap app?
Sure, we'll add that on there, but number 2 copper wire, Bob, could mean a bunch of different things. If you're looking for like stripped copper wire, that's like a tin coating, you can look at something that, like a number 2 copper, that price would be there. We've seen some reported prices coming in, $1.70, $1.80, $1.90, $1.95, so a couple topping out over $2 per pound, but we'll make sure to look for it. If you're looking for insulated number 2 copper wire, these are the different questions that we have, so once you give us a better idea, we'll be able to give you a better answer. So let's talk about something we haven't talked about very often, and that's the rare earth metals market, the nickel markets, the palladium, the platinum, the gold markets, things that most people think will not affect them heavily, but we want to talk about them today because they're still metals and there's still news about them. Palladium prices have hit all-time highs. With the palladium prices reaching these all-time highs, we've seen the prices on catalytic converters also hitting multi-year highs. Because don't forget, palladium is only one of the metals that goes into the catalytic converters, as does platinum. Platinum is not at highs, but palladium market has been, and there is generally more palladium inside of the catalytic converters than there is platinum, rhodium, and a couple of other metals. Now, with the palladium prices increases, we've seen more and more people posting pictures through our Facebook group, which, don't forget, we filter out every day to make sure that people aren't advertising themselves, whoring their own scrap yards out or making, deals. We're trying to have people learn about materials. We've seen dozens of people putting pictures on there of their catalytic converters over the last few weeks with their pictures going up there. We've seen a lot of people commenting and giving them a little idea of where the markets have been. Now, we're always here to help you, and we'd love you to private message us with any catalytic converter questions or prices that you have if you don't feel comfortable listing some of the materials that you have online. We're always here for that, so don't forget to private message us, and we'll let you know some of the prices that you can expect and give you a little better idea on how to expect them to come in and how catalytic converters are graded. That being said, with the palladium market up, It almost is eclipsing the gold market, which is kind of crazy. But gold has also risen in the $1,246 an ounce range when I looked a little while ago. Now, of course, I'm always going to say the same thing. Gold is going to affect the electronic scrap market. But with not a lot of news coming out of China on electronic scrap being allowed back in the country, we are in what I'd like to call a standstill. So, we're in a classic hold-off with the gold and precious metals market, but we have seen the nickel market really get beaten up this year. It's almost been like a punching bag for one of those Sylvester Stallone movies. We've seen the nickel market really getting hammered with the stainless steel prices dropping and a lot of the reported prices coming in the mid-20-cent range. Of course, 316 stainless is a little higher. Prices were being reported 38, 40, 42 cents a pound over the last few weeks. Overall, guys, we think that the markets are reacting in a very appropriate way. With the stock market swinging the way that they have, you're always going to have a lot of uncertainty in where the markets are and how they're going to be headed. We've seen stock market swings of 500 points up and 500 points down, sometimes in the same day. We saw an 800-point swing recently as of last week. We've seen the markets drop 500 points to rebound 30 or 40 points higher. We've seen all types of things happen over the last few weeks that we generally don't see in December, especially when investors are starting to pull out some profits for year end. We've really stayed in touch with these, with the gas prices falling down and having fallen another 45, 50 cents over the last few months. We've seen these gas prices decreasing, and we've continued to watch these markets really take a beating. We've seen a lot of questions coming in, so Virginia, what do you have?
Yes, Bobby asked, are AC coils clean going up?
AC coils, aluminum copper radiator coils, or ACRs, price is about the same, 91 cents a pound is the average price that we've seen overall. A lot of people will ask us with the ends that they're cutting off of the ACRs if it's worth pulling the copper off, and I will answer with the question, it's only worth what your time is worth. Some people like getting that copper off, where most yards will buy those aluminum copper radiator ends at just a lower price.
We have clarification from Bob about that number 2 wire. He said, specifically, most people I see in the Facebook group and for myself, it's stripped and or coming from the windings out of electric motors.
So that's going to be a number 2. Thanks for the clarification, Bob. That's just going to be a number 2. Figure your price right now, $190, $2, $185, depending on where you are. But don't forget this, a lot of those windings have heavy coatings on them. When they have heavy coating on them, do not be surprised if you see those prices drop 20 cents a pound or more, because they're almost considered an insulated copper cable at that point. And while it's very thin, it's not how thin it is to the eye, it's how much it weighs compared to the copper as an overall grading. We've posted videos and blogs in the past on how you can take your materials, weigh them before, take off the insulation, weigh them after, and that's what the copper recovery is. This is one of those circumstances. It's not the easiest thing to do, but generally we've seen the price being 7 to 10% less. Virginia?
We have another question from Hung. He asks, does scrap prices change by the season?
You know, that's almost an old wives' tale that was true for many years, Hung, and it still is sometimes valid today. We've seen that over the last 10 to 15 years that the traders on Wall Street and a lot of the different metals and commodities traders throughout the world have taken over a lot of these metal prices. So while there is, of course, a supply and demand, we're really we're almost at the mercy of a lot of these large banks and investment funds that have controls over a lot of metal markets. Virginia?
Bob said wonderful answer, by the way. Thank you so much.
My pleasure, Bob.
We have a shout out from Steven in the UK.
Steve, how you doing out there?
And we also have a question from Cody. How about steel prices?
All right, so light iron prices, like I was saying, they've really dropped. We've seen reported prices anywhere from $88 a ton up to about $135 a ton for light iron. Heavy steel has been the thing that's really gotten hammered with the market down a good solid $30 to $40 a ton over the last month. We've seen some reports for unprepared steel in the $160, $70, $180 per ton range. Guys, this is Tom from the iScrap app. Today is Wednesday, December 12th, 2018. With 13 days until Christmas, we have 1 or 2 more live episodes that we're going to do this year for our weekly reports. We hope that you start your Christmas shopping. Let us know what you're doing with your scrap in time for the holidays. And until next week, I'll scrap you later.